I'm Dr. Deb Butler, and you are listening to Thinner Peace and Menopause and Beyond. This is episode number 326. Welcome to Thinner Peace and Menopause and Beyond. This is Dr. Deb Butler, Master Life and Weight Coach, and as always, your coach. If you're a woman and you're smart and you're successful and you've been struggling with weight your whole life, and now menopause is making it harder than ever, and you are ready to make this the last time you ever have to go on a diet again, then this podcast is for you. Stay tuned. Well, hello, all my dear friends all over the world. How are you today? I'm thinking a lot about all of you. Well, at least it's summer in this part. And I know all over the world it's not summer, but here it's summer and there's a lot of things that come up with summer. But the thing that I really want to talk to you about today is the thing that I've talked to you about for 5 years. And I believe I cannot talk about this thing enough because it is a consistent problem. It's a consistent obstacle. And you who are listening may have a problem with this. And this is going to be the podcast where you are going to learn something that is going to change everything for you. Because what I want to talk about today, again, is about a specific disease. And this disease is called the need to please. And it is an epidemic in our world, especially around women. And it was very clear to me this week as I was working with one of my clients, and I want to tell you the story about her a little bit, the coaching behind it, how I helped her, and why it's so relevant to you that you must learn how to speak up for yourself, and you must learn how to say no when you mean no. When you feel in your body screaming at you to say no, you need to learn. Well, you don't need to, but maybe you want to learn how to respect yourself by giving yourself what you really want. And your body probably has a much better idea of what you want than your mind many, many times. So your body has ways of speaking to you emotionally. Your positive emotions and your negative emotions, your comfortable emotions and your uncomfortable emotions, all can be felt in your body as vibrations. And really, that's the first idea that something is going on in your body by how it feels. So for the purpose of what I'm going to talk to you about today, I just want to say that when you feel something in your body that feels uncomfortable, and somebody asks you to do something, or, well, like in the story that I'm going to tell you in a minute, how this woman's children asked her to do something to watch her grandkids. And for those of you who have grandchildren, you might be able to relate to this. Those of you who have children may be able to relate to this. Those of you who have friends may be able to relate to this. If you have this disease to please, I think this story will be quite relevant to you. And also, I want you to use it for this week, in the first week of July, to start figuring out your yeses and your nos, and then how to actually honor them, how to actually learn how to please yourself without feeling selfish. Because for a lot of people, and this woman included, when I started talking to her about this idea that, well, you really didn't want to do it, did you? No. But she felt it would be selfish to say no. And, she's in her 50s or 60s right now. So, all of us are moving along in age, and we really want to understand. And there's nothing like a body that's changing hormonally, that our brains are changing. It's such a beautiful time to recognize this and to help ourselves. First of all, there's nothing wrong with you to begin with, okay? There's nothing bad if you like to say yes when you mean no, but it doesn't feel good to you. And I think now, because you have this much wisdom, I think you have enough wherewithal to kind of get the difference of what it feels like in your body. So I'm going to tell you this story with my client this week. And if it resonates with you, please, please, please use it. If it doesn't resonate with you, please don't use it. But what I find after 5 years of doing podcasts is that many of the stories, many of the interviews, many of the things I tell you about myself seems to resonate with you because more and more people keep listening. I get more and more letters. So I'm thinking that these points that I keep bringing up about you, your body, menopause is really making a difference for you. So today is going to make the biggest difference if you listen to me and do what I tell you to do. And I'm just going to make some recommendations. It's not going to be a command. It's just going to be some recommendations on how you go about the beginning of learning how to say no. So here's the story. I'm working with my client this week, and she's probably in her third week of working with me. And some of the things that I can relate to you about her is that she's had weight issues, food issues, body issues most of her life. And she really intentionally, when she decided to hire me, she was ready to do whatever it took. That's really what it takes is that kind of thinking. When you decide to hire me and to get coached, is to have that kind of thinking that I'm going to do whatever it takes, as imperfectly as it may be, but I'm going to do whatever it takes. I'm going to do what Dr. Deb says. And this is the thing. If you hire me, you do need to do what I tell you to do. And it's not like I'm going to tell you to jump over a bridge, but I might tell you to keep a food journal. So here, let me explain the story with my client. So she's been working with me for about 3 weeks now. And the thing that I noticed about her the most is that she really has intentionally, with her food journals, started to bring herself into mostly fuel eating, learning how to actually do a mindful joy eat, to know the difference between a joy eat, a fuel eat, and being able to combine a joy and a fuel meal together, and to also understand when she's actually fogging. And fogging, basically, if those of you are just tuning in for the first time, fuel eating is when you're choosing nutritious food for your body, regardless of hunger. You're choosing nutritious food and calling it fuel. You would label it as fuel, as opposed to a joy eat, which is a non nutritious food that you really like. Now, a joy eat can be done mindfully, which is a true joy eat, which means you enjoy it bite, 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 and you stop the minute you're done. Or it can become a joy fog, which means that you're not enjoying it bite, bite, bite. You're eating it and then you're overeating it. And then the more you overeat it, the more you want to overeat it. And it becomes very the opposite of mindfulness. And then it's accompanied by a lot of negative emotions. And learning the true joy eat, the art of a true joy eat, really does take practice. And I would say already in her third week, she's really learning that. So, what she has exhibited to me in her food journals up until this point is very little fog eating. There is some, but mostly joy eating. I mean, mostly fuel eating or fuel joy eating, eating between the twos, mostly fuel eating, eating between the twos, which is probably when you can do that, eat when you're hungry, stop when you're full, mostly fuel, you're probably going to start losing weight, which is what's happening with her. And she's also saying things like she said, oh my gosh, I didn't realize it could be this easy. I don't feel deprived. This is the first time. And then she also has some thoughts about, I don't know if I can keep this up. It's like the mind kind of goes back and forth at this point. But basically, her food journals are really aligned and she's feeling really proud of herself and she's losing weight. So we get on the phone this week because that's how I work with my clients is we actually are on the phone and talking and having a conversation. And she sends me her food journals and I look at her food journals. And most of her food journals are like they usually are, eating between the twos, mostly fuel. However, one day I look at and I see that it's almost all fuel joy fog, fuel joy fog, joy fog, fuel, whatever. There's a more entries, more food entries, and less fuel eating by itself and overeating. So, of course, this gets my attention. And of course, it already has her attention because she brings it up immediately, which is the beauty of being able to food journal what you do, because it does get your attention. And it did get her attention. And she brought me to it because she wanted me to coach her on it to understand what was going on. Now, when I asked her what was going on, let me tell you the actual circumstances is that she and her husband have a cabin that they love to go to and relax. And she also has children and grandchildren. And her children like to ask her to take some of their kids on weekends or whatever and watch them. So this was a Sunday, and I guess one of her children had asked her to watch, or maybe it was more than one. I don't know, remember exactly, but it was 4 grandkids. And the type of food that was on that food journal was not what she had usually been choosing. So I just asked her about it. And she said, well, I was just tired and I was just so exhausted from watching them. And I just wanted to eat whatever they were eating because it was just too much work. That's what she was telling me. That's what she was telling herself, is that it's just too much work and it's exhausting. So I said to her, were you having a good time? She says, well, I love my grandchildren. And I said, yeah, well, I love my grandchildren too. But were you having a good time? And did you really want to do this? Now, here's what I want you to hear, because she does watch her grandchildren, I think, whenever anybody asks her. And I think she's says yes to a lot of things when it comes to her family that may not be a true yes, as we are starting to talk about this. Now, this has never really come up very much up until this entry. And so I said to her, well, why didn't you just tell them? She said, I really wanted to come up to the cabin by myself and be alone. It was a hard week and I really wanted to relax. Now, I would imagine that when they asked her to do this, she probably had some kind of a feeling in her body that was uncomfortable, that was kind of egging her to say no. And I asked her about it and she said, oh, yes, she did. And I said, well, why didn't you? She says, I never say no to my children because they need me and they work hard and I love them. And I would just never say no to them. I said, you have never said no? And in her recollection, she really does think that she has to say yes if she loves them. Now, what's fascinating about this is the first time all this fogging shows up in her food journals. And the real reason we see so much fogging is because we see somebody who's actually not doing what she wants to do and almost using the food against herself because she's not happy. See, there's a lot of negative emotion going on there, and she didn't really see it because all she believed was that she was just going to eat what they were eating and she just wanted to save time, making it easier on herself by eating the food that they're eating, even though she doesn't consider any of it fuel, and eating foods that she didn't plan. I mean, all kinds of things that she just wasn't doing. And in the end, that day, all it did was it represented this woman in terms of her need or her disease to please, because she said, that's just who I am and it's just what I do. I say yes. And, I like being appreciated and I like helping them out. And it's what I've always done. Now, if you're anything like this is how I worked with her, because I'm telling you, when you start to see this for the first time, and it's not like she didn't know that she had a hard time saying no, but it's the first time she saw how it played out in eating and how she used food. And she said to me, and I'm going to say very specifically because it was a quote from her. She said, this is the reason why I've been fat all my life. It was just like this aha moment to her, is that how she was using food. Like, she thinks she's rewarding herself. She likes some of the food. It's so much easier. It's okay. I've been doing well. I've lost weight. All the little things that you say to yourself. when you're on a trajectory of weight loss and then something comes up and you go against yourself and you try to come up with a reason of why you can do it. And it probably is one of the reasons why it's been so hard to lose weight and keep it off over the years if she didn't know that this was going on and didn't know what to do with the emotion. Because in the end, she can say yes when she means no, and she still doesn't have to eat crap, and she can still eat between the twos and just feel uncomfortable all day long. That is an option too, which is something that she can do. And what I told her, I said, listen, I am not saying you have to change anything at this point. Because when you hear something like this for the first time, when you can actually see what's going on, it's very scary. Because for her to think that if she would say no, it would mean that people might not appreciate her anymore, that she might not get all this attention if she started saying no, or this love. Like maybe, I think she even said it's a way of showing her love. And by saying yes, it's also a way of being appreciated by her children. And it's like, if you've been doing that your whole life, that's a scary thing to think you have to stop. And so, what I said to her and what I would say to you is, you don't have to stop anything at this point. The only thing that you need to do at this point, you just did. You saw it, you became aware of it, and I coached you on it. And you can see the discomfort that's inside of you because you didn't want to be there. And listen, I am not saying that there are not extenuating circumstances and that there are times when you do say yes, even though it's a no, because it's something out of the ordinary. I understand that. But when it is an ongoing thing that you do, and when I'm talking to you out there, you know who you are, where you really don't know how to say no. Like she knew this is who I'm talking to, that this is an issue for her. And it is something that she may or may not want to change, but at least that she can see that it's part of the reason it hasn't been a problem with food. It's been a problem with her mind and being able to actually please herself more than pleasing other people. Because up until this point in her life, pleasing other people has been the way she pleases herself. And you can see that sometimes, at least she could see here, this was not pleasing to her at all. She was saying to herself, well, they'll appreciate it. But in that moment, there was nothing there going on that she was like liking or appreciating or anything. All she said to me was she couldn't wait until the kids got picked up. It's like she wasn't enjoying the moment. She didn't want to be there to begin with. Is that you too? I bet it is, because I think that this is as epidemic as our problems with our bodies overall, our problems with what we think about food overall, how we use it, and how we think about our bodies and losing weight. Epidemic. And at the heart of all of this is our inability to stand up for ourselves and to give ourselves what we really want. And I will tell you this, there has never been a better time to start finding out what you want than now. So for her right now, all I said to her, and this is maybe the recommendation that I would give to you for the next week, just notice in your body when you want to say no. When somebody asks you something, it could be something simple. It could be something like, what do you want to eat? It could be something like, what movie do you want to watch? It could be anything. Notice if you're able to speak up if somebody else wants something different, and just see what it feels like in your body. So come back to yourself, become present with yourself, and see if you can see and feel what's actually going on with you when you want to say no. And here's the best news of all. You still don't have to say no. You can still say yes, but you will have a lot more awareness. Now, here's the thing. Once you start noticing this phenomena, when you really want to say no, there are smaller steps you can do to say no. So what I recommended to her, if she wants to get to the next step of no, like actually saying the word, do it with something pretty little, doesn't make that much of a difference. Like I wouldn't start with saying if you want to leave your marriage, I wouldn't start there. And I'm not saying she did not say that whatsoever. But, sometimes people go, God, I got to say no to everything that I really don't want. And you don't start with big things, you start with little things. So a little thing might be maybe somebody's cooking for you and they say, oh, I really love such and such. I'm going to make this. Could you say, you know what? If you really don't want it or like it, oh man, I really don't like that. Could I have this instead? Something simple. We're just talking about food. How relevant. Or maybe it's just something like somebody asked you to go pick something up and you don't have any time in that day to do it. And you want to say no, you can feel it in your body, but you can also hear your mind going, oh, what will they think of you? What will they think of you? Maybe you can take a chance of what they might think of you if you just say no. Do it with little things. And I think what you're going to find if you can just do little things, like a movie, when somebody wants a different movie than you and you really want something different, if you can speak up for yourself, this is the step number 2 that you do or don't have to do this week. This is step number 2. Step number 1 is just being aware that it's a no, even though you can't say it. That is the first step. But the second step is actually saying it. And then what you'll notice, I think, is you're going to notice that the whole world doesn't fall apart when you say no. The person doesn't have a connect fit. And let's put it this way. Let's just say somebody asks you to do something and you say no, and they have a quote unquote heart attack. They can't believe you said no. Do you really want them as a friend? Or whatever it is, do you really want them in your life? Or is it possible that they're so trained that they're shocked? But these are all kinds of things just to start looking at for you, because this is all about you. And this is all about you learning how to please yourself, appreciate yourself, so much so that you don't need it outside of yourself. When you look outside for appreciation, that means that you forgot to go inside first. And usually, when you feel more appreciation for yourself on the inside, you need it less on the outside. Okay. So that's what I want you to think about this week. This is what I told my client, and I can't wait to talk to her next week just to see which of the steps that she took, if any. I know she has so much more self awareness, and anybody that works with me wants to learn more about more than the food that they put in their mouth, but more why they put the food in her mouth. And I don't think she's ever had as much of an aha moment as she did in this last week on that 1 day's food journal, which is also the power of food journals and coaching food journals. There's so much to learn. Okay. So for this week, you're going to start working on what pleases me. Even if you don't do anything, at least be aware of what you really want. See if you can feel it in your body. See if you can feel what it feels like if you go against yourself. See what it feels like if you stand up for yourself and you say yeah and you say no when you mean it. You might find that to be a pretty phenomenal feeling too. That's what I'm thinking is going to happen to my client. That's what happens to a lot of my clients and the people that I coach is once they realize the whole world isn't going to fall apart, and then they start feeling so much better about themselves, they become more aligned. And the more aligned you become with yourself, more true you become to yourself, then you're being more real and you're being more yourself. And I do say this, and I want to say it with compassion, is that when we say yes, when we mean no, we are lying. And I don't know about you, but I have a lot of integrity about telling the truth. And I have a feeling you do too, and don't realize that that's basically lying. Okay. So I think I've given you enough to think about for this week. This week, you're going to start being comfortable with your discomfort and then deciding what you want to do with it when it comes to giving yourself what you want. It's the beginning of ending and curing this disease to please. And of course, before I go, no matter where else you go and no matter what else you do this week, please, please, please be very, very, very kind to yourself. And I will see you next week. Bye-bye. If you're loving my podcast and you would like some more information to be able to follow along with, then please go to drdebbutler.com/change and you can get a free copy of my companion book that goes with this podcast that I refer to in many different episodes. That is drdebbutler.com/change. CHANGE.